Welcome everyone. My name is David Sylvester. I will be your host for today's webcast. I'm pumped up, fired up to be here with you today. Let's go over a couple housekeeping items. First of all, be active. We go really fast here at Lumu. We're packing in 4 sessions in an hour and change. Be sure to watch this webcast in full screen. That's going to be the optimal experience. Stay until the end because we are giving away some incredible prizes and gadgets. You don't want to miss out on that. Let's go over the agenda. So on the agenda, we're going to first off be setting the stage with Robbins to understand the immediate growth opportunities for MSPs today, right there for the taking. Then we have a fantastic MSP panel that are Lumu clients that are going to share firsthand experiences in selling cybersecurity solutions to their customer base. Lastly, the Lumu team will present Lumu specifically made for MSPs and how you can leverage our offering to help your customers and yourself build a state-of-the-art cybersecurity operation in no time. Prizes. Here's the deal about prizes. It's the end of the year. Our marketing team is going all out. So we have some incredible gadgets. You have to stay until the end if you want to win these prizes. All right. At 10 minutes before noon, we're going to upload the list of names. Be sure to be here if you want to win. All right. I want to see you there. I want to see you take home some prizes. All right. Let's get this MSP party started. Here we go. All right, for our first portion of the event today, I want to introduce everyone to Ryahn. Ryahn is a renowned speaker. She's an expert IT consultant. She's also the CEO of the technology marketing Toolkit. Ryahn, welcome to Lumu. Very excited to talk to you today.
Right, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, David. Hey, everybody out there. Hope you're having a good show.
Awesome. So I want to pick your brain today about the MSP opportunity as it relates to cybersecurity, right? So let's get started. So right now, why is it the moment for cybersecurity and the MSPs? Why, what's going on with the current threat landscape that makes this a no-brainer immediate activity for them to go after?
Okay, well, I mean, there's a couple reasons. And just for those of you who might not be familiar what I do, there's, I've been working with MSPs, VARs back in the day, but MSPs now and MSSPs now for almost 20 years. And we've worked with over 10,000 of them. So I have a really good pulse on what's happening in the industry. We run the MSP industry's largest peer group as well. And why that's important is because I'm on calls and in meetings with these guys every single week, and I hear what's working, what's not working, what trends are going on. And without a doubt, the #1 area for growth in every single MSP that I'm working with or have talked to is in selling some sort of advanced cybersecurity protection. So if they're an MSP, a lot of our members are going back to their managed clients and selling them an advanced cybersecurity protection package, because some of our clients, maybe some of you out there, you've had some clients that have been around for 10 years, even 5, 10 years or longer, and you sold them a managed services program back then, and it didn't have advanced cyber protections like what you guys offer, like the continuous protection and assessments. It doesn't have advanced endpoint protections. It might not have more sophisticated backup solutions. You might not be doing awareness training. And so a majority of our clients, the ones that are smart, that are making money, what they're doing is they're going back and they are selling these advanced cyber protections. And those clients that I have that are break fix, basically they just do project or time materials, they're going to their clients and saying, this really isn't a good arrangement for you because you need somebody looking at and paying attention to cyber protections in your organization. So I'm seeing it out in the marketplace right now. I think if you're an MSP or IT firm, break fix, whatever, and you're not selling some kind of cyber protection, you're going to be left behind. Buyers are getting more savvy, so they're looking for that in the MSPs that they're hiring. I had Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank on our stage. I've had Kevin now 3 different times, on our stage. And he even said this last spring, I'm sure it hasn't changed. He said that the #1 increase in budgets across all his portfolio of companies is in tech and in cybersecurity. So Marcus Lemonis said the same thing. Maybe some of you know Marcus. He's the CEO of Camping World, Good Sam, billion-dollar companies. He's on NBC's The Profit. He's on TV as well. He said the same thing. So there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, or anybody who knows this industry or has 2 brain cells that function, that know you have to be thinking about selling, offering cybersecurity solutions, not only for the opportunity, but also because it really is becoming a necessity if you're going to be touching anybody's network.
Okay, awesome. And very well said. And on that note, what specific advice do you have? How can they meet that moment? What can the MSP do to really meet this moment and go after the cybersecurity market?
Well, I mean, I think it's coming to events like this and talking to other MSPs and figuring out what solutions are out there and packaging them together in a way where they are appropriate for your customer. So obviously, if you're serving a medical entity, you're going to have a different set of solutions you need to bring to a medical entity or a government agency. I mean, now the CMMC certification, depending on your client base, you want to go out to the marketplace. You want to look at companies like yours, go to events like this and find out how other people are packaging and pricing it, and start somewhere, because you can't ignore it. Again, if you ignore this, there's a risk to you getting hacked, #1, as an MSP, because you are a higher level target for hackers because you control other businesses. And there's a risk of that. There's a risk of one of your clients getting hacked, and they're going to, if one of your clients gets hacked under your watch, they're not going to say, well, you guys, I should have bought a better protection. Maybe I should have listened to you. Maybe you haven't even talked to them about it. They're going to be blaming you for that. And there's even legal ramifications. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV, and I don't want to make any statements, but we live in a very litigious society, a sue-happy world. And if a small business gets a ransomware attack and loses their data and is down for several days, and it causes them some sort of damage in their business, and you are the one doing their IT, you better bet your bottom dollar there is an attorney out there that will take that case and try and sue you, to at least even get the insurance money. So you can't ignore this anymore. This is not something that's going to go away, and it's the competition's already offering it. So right now in your marketplace, I guarantee you there's multiple MSPs that are offering cyber protections. So just to keep pace, you've got to do this. And, again, I'm not a technical expert, so I'm not going to sit here and say, here's the tech stack that you need. I've got people on my team who, and experts that I work with that can do that better. I'm the marketing, I'm the business, the entrepreneurial leader, and I understand where money is being made. So that's what I can talk to you about. But again, don't ignore it. Get something together and start offering it to your customers.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible opportunity. It's the bottom line. You better be in it. My next question, what advice would you give to MSPs with customers that they're not there yet with cybersecurity? They think, hey, I don't need this yet. I don't even have a cybersecurity problem. Why are you bringing this to me, MSP?
So I think the question I'm understanding is if there's someone out there listening and they have talked to their customers about cybersecurity or protections, and the customer's like not buying it. Is that what you're asking?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's the thing you got to remember, guys, it's easier to sell an aspirin than it is to sell a vitamin. A cure for cancer is going to sell at a much higher price with more urgency than a bunch of broccoli or vitamins for cancer prevention. So That's the nature of the beast. So in order for someone to buy cybersecurity, they have to feel like, one, that this actually could happen to them. Two, they got to feel like the danger is imminent, meaning it could happen at any moment, and it's very likely it's going to happen. And then they also have to see the ramifications of what's going to happen when that attack plays out, because they think, well, I get a little virus and, maybe we're down for a day or two, but, they don't realize that their entire business could be halted, all operations, all data, all everything. There could be legal ramifications to it. I've got a letter that my clients send out, and it says, when you get hit by a cyber attack through no fault of your own, will they call you stupid or irresponsible? Now, that's the headline on the letter. And it's that level of awareness that you got to bring to the end customer. I mean, the problem is that a lot of the marketing and the talk about cybersecurity has been overhyped to the point of desensitization, meaning just like overhyped weather reports. We just had one this last week. The news was all light, we're under a severe thunderstorm or storm warning, possible tornadoes. I mean, they were hyping it up. I had an event going on, so I was a little nervous, and I should have known better because it like rained a little bit. There was absolutely no lightning, and there was hardly any wind. So there's that. Again, people think it's not going to happen to me and my business because we're small. Our situation is different. My people are too smart. My people won't click on a link. We've got an antivirus installed. We're good. And so in your marketing, part of what I teach in the marketing is your marketing has to educate the prospect. And a lot of people won't like this, but it's true. It's necessary. They have to be scared stiff a little bit, or they're not going to do anything, because an undisturbed prospect never buys. And what I mean by that is if they're not aware that they have a serious need and they really don't think it's going to happen to them, they're not going to buy. So we teach a process called EDR marketing, educational direct response. And we use things like webinars and free reports and videos and checklists and, other educational material to elevate the awareness to that business owner. Here's what could happen. Here's how it will play out. Here is how it's going to damage you personally. Here's what the cost is actually going to be. And this could actually happen to you. So one is using that kind of material to educate your customers. The other thing is, if you have a customer, it's about stiffening your spine a little bit and actually going in there and selling it. Now, if you can use, I believe that, David, your tool helps with that. I believe they can install that and it can show vulnerabilities, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can go in and show exactly where their infrastructure is contacting adversaries, the bad guys, very, very quickly.
Right. I mean, so like immediately I would be using that tool to go in and do that assessment, because it will reveal areas that are where there's threats, where there's danger to the network. Just think of it like this. You go into a doctor, you feel absolutely fine. He's like, I don't know, I got a sneaking suspicion that lump there could be something more than what you think. And what does he do? He does an assessment. He does an MRI, he does an X-ray, and then he comes back and says, holy smokes, this is serious. We need to operate. See, if the doctor never said, hey, I think we need to look at this closer, and I'm insisting, the doctor's almost got to scare you a little bit to make you do that assessment. And the doctor's got to be confident and certain. Because if the doctor's like, maybe it's all right, I don't know. If I were you, I'd probably have it looked at. But, if you don't want to do it, hey, that's fine. See, I think that doctor's incompetent. I think that doctor should be pressing his patient that you need to get this checked out. You need to look into this because this could be serious. And look, if it's nothing, then we all sleep easier at night. But if it's something, it's better to catch it early, catch it before it progresses, than wait till something god awful happens and it's life threatening. So I think part of it too is you as the MSP need to go into your clients and insist. I have some of my clients right now where they are insisting their clients buy their advanced cyber protections. And if they don't do that, they cannot be a client. They're not even allowing that client to say no, because if the client, again, guys, if the client says, I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't have the budget for it. And you let them sell you on that versus you selling them on buying it. If and when they get breached, you know they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, hey, hang on a second, you were supposed to be protecting me. Why can't I get my data back? Why am I having to pay the ransom? Where, you know, they're going to point all the fingers at you. And the conversation you don't want to have is the I told you so conversation, because they won't remember it and you're going to get the blame for it. So I think part of it too is you have to be sold on this before you can sell it. And it still surprises me how many MSPs are not as sold on this as they should be. Again, personally, based on what I've seen, based on CEOs that I know who have been hacked, I know I'm not going to make some people are going to think this is very hurtful, but I think you're not being the fiduciary you should be to your clients if you allow your customers to operate without proper cybersecurity protocols in place.
Very well said. I mean, a lot of good points there. They have to really feel the threat, you know, inside their body. The MSP has to be confident going after their customers, coming in, you know, and just letting them know, hey, here's the deal. So we're seeing more and more MSPs include solutions, like you said, right out of the gate, and it's just, you know, right. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's kind of like remember the TV show Scared Straight, where they took kids that were kind of unruly and they you know, they tell them all the time, hey, you're headed for trouble. You're going to head for a bad life, you know, all these things. And the kids are like, I know it all. I don't need you, you dumb adult. And so they take them into prisons and the prisoners talk to them. And it's not a comfortable, easy kumbaya kind of meeting. I mean, it's literally, they scare them straight. And, you know, that's kind of what's necessary a little bit, you know, because I think, again, MSPs just kind of, they don't want to be, they call it fear mongering, and I don't want to do fear mongering, and I don't want to, you know, insist that my clients do this, but they need it a little bit in order to be protected. I'm a mom, I've got 2 kids. And believe me, I don't make suggestions if my toddler is at the top of a flight of wooden stairs. I don't gently make suggestions about, you know, be careful around. I mean, like, we put locks up, you know, you prevent them from doing things that could hurt themselves. And you do it because you love them, because you don't want to see bad stuff happen to them. And I think that's really what we're talking about with cybersecurity. You got to love your clients and take that responsibility, and don't take no for an answer. And you might even have to go so far as to say, look, if you won't do this, then I can't even take care of you because it's just too much risk.
Yeah, all really good points. Now, I mean, this is a good segue into my next question. So, I mean, we know now they have to have confidence, some backbone to, you know, go after their customers. You know, many MSPs today still find cybersecurity just, you know, complex, maybe a little intimidating and daunting. Mm-hmm. And just to get, you know, to nip that in the bud, what would you recommend to those MSPs to, you know, just get more comfortable having those conversations with the clients?
Well, I mean, again, get educated is number one. Coming to events like this, talk to people who have already been selling cyber protections. You know, what does the solution stack look like? What do they, you know, how are people pricing it? I mean, our peer groups those conversations are happening all the time. I mean, we have, and we have templates and I mean, do you guys offer that to your members? Do you have any solution stacks or things that you give your members?
We do a lot of product training and for information webinars and through our blogs. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. I mean, and the reality is, you know, you don't really have a choice. You know, right now, I do think it's necessary. It's like, I'm a marketing firm, so I can't say, well, I'm a little intimidated and overwhelmed by social media, so I'm not going to offer it to my customers. Like, I don't have a choice at this point. You know, I have to be talking to my customers about social media and about the new opportunities, SEO on, you know, pay-per-click, websites, all those things. Yeah, it's overwhelming and complicated, but you know, that's what people pay you for. That's your area of expertise. I mean, you've got to gain expertise. The IT industry is always evolving and it's always changing. You know, and so you have to have a steady feed of education, learning figuring out what's going on. New technologies come out all the time, as do new threats. So yeah, if it's intimidating, I understand it, but just sitting and doing nothing is definitely not the answer. Get started, go to these events, figure out how people are packaging and pricing things. I mean, that a lot of our forums in our member portal and our events, that's a lot of what we talk about with our members. And of course, marketing and selling it.
All right. Yeah. It's an opportunity, right? Just kind of meet it and make it happen. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, just selling cybersecurity in general as an MSP. How does it help build credibility and generate action at the customer level? So just, selling cybersecurity, I'm confident about it. How is that gonna, how are you gonna get stuff moving with those customers when you do that?
Well, so one is I'm not a big fan of selling stuff. So what I mean by that is MSPs need to sell trust. They need to sell themselves as an authoritative expert to build trust, because once somebody trusts you, they're going to take your advice. If you go at customers selling stuff being cyber protections, backup, managed service, whatever, right? People aren't going to buy that. First of all, the average business owner isn't knowledgeable enough to really determine whatever the stuff is that you're offering. Is it good? Is it bad? Do I need it? Do I not need it? They can't determine that. So what customers want to buy is they want to buy a trusted authority, an expert that they can then say, if Bob, if you say that I need this, I trust you implicitly. And I'm going to do it because you're telling me I need it and I trust you. So to put a little like spin on that is, don't sell stuff. Make sure you have that trust and authority. So even in your marketing, you're going to do that. And today, again, more sophisticated businesses are requiring their MSPs to offer cybersecurity solutions and protections. I mean, that's what we're teaching our clients is, we have checklists. So if you go up against one of my clients who really has the marketing dialed in and you don't have proper cybersecurity protocols in place for yourself or for your clients that you offer them, they're going to take that business away from you, and they're going to charge more than you do, because we can easily make the case that you ought not trust somebody who is an IT professional in this day and age that isn't secure themselves and that isn't offering cyber protections. It's just, I mean, and again, people are getting more sophisticated about this, the more savvy about it. So you got to absolutely make sure you offer it.
Okay, perfect. And just there's a lot of different cybersecurity tools out there. I mean, in your experience with what you've seen, how are the most effective MSPs demonstrating value from these cybersecurity tools to the clients?
Well, again, I think the way they're doing it is you have to do some sort of initial diagnostic selling. You have to, when you're going into a client, you've got to help them see what the problem is, how it could damage their organization, how it could cost them they could lose everything that they work so hard for to a cyber attack. And it's a risk they don't have to take. And so I think first and foremost, you want to do some sort of diagnostic assessment in the environment to see where they're vulnerable, what kind of data do they have, what do they need, and then sell some sort of solution. But again, what you're really selling is trust. And you're also selling with cybersecurity, you're selling peace of mind, because people want to just know that if something happens, you guys are going to be there. You're going to prevent it from happening, because ideally you want to prevent it from happening. But if a ransomware attack were to happen, the second peace of mind knowing I could at least get my data back and be okay. So as far as like tools and whatnot, again, I'm not the technical expert. There's a lot of really good tools out there, but your customers aren't buying because of the tools that you use. The house that I live in, I had a builder build it, and I bought because I trusted my builder. I didn't buy it because he used a certain type of hammer or saw or a certain kind of wood. So again, don't get too, the tools are important. Don't get me wrong, because obviously you want to have good tools, but people are gonna buy from you because they trust you and you're an authority expert, not because of the solutions you sell, the tools, and even the price point. Because while price definitely is one consideration, it is not the sole decision-making thing or point that a customer is going to make a decision on whether they buy from you or not. It's going to really come down to, do they trust you? Because even if you're cheaper, but they just get a sense that you don't know what you're doing and they don't trust you, they're not going to buy just to save money if they don't trust you.
Okay. All right. And look, and one of your, your previous presentations, I was able to view it. You encourage the MSPs to, go ahead. There's a slew of good free accounts where they can, start getting intelligence. And I'll just say, this is exactly what Lumu does. We're really confident with our continuous compromise assessment, and MSP can turn it on. We're going to show where the adversaries are lurking in their clients' networks immediately. You guys can open it up a free account, hit the QR code. But the bottom line is, I kind of want to circle back as we close this up. There are really good free tools out there to start using, creating credibility and trust with the MSP clients. So again, just what you've seen, Robin, how are MSPs leveraging just even free products to show more value to their clients?
Well, I mean, again, I hope I don't sound like I'm trying to skirt the question, but like I would say, like with the tool that you have, if I could, if you look at something like this, it is a no-brainer to sign up and at least start there, because it's a free assessment tool, right? And you can put it on your clients' networks. That to me is an absolute no-brainer to go ahead and do right now, because it can start if nothing else, it can start the conversation with the client as to what the threats are, what are the challenges, what's going on in that environment. But I can tell you that all of our clients are doing some kind of an assessment before they're going in to pitch. And it's no different. It's kind of like if you go to a doctor, a good doctor doesn't just sit you across from them and say, without any analysis, diagnostics whatsoever, says, you look like somebody who needs surgery. I think we ought to schedule you for surgery. And you're like, whoa, well, like, aren't you going to do an MRI or an X-ray or something? And no, we don't, we don't need that. Everybody needs surgery. I'm just going to sell you some surgery. It doesn't even make sense. So a big mistake I think a lot of MSPs make is they just start selling whatever's on their wagon, and they don't do any kind of diagnostic analysis, just even asking questions. What's important to you? What kind of data do you have? How confident are you against cyber threats? Why do you feel that way? It just even, one of the tools, it's not a free tool, but like you look at like even something like a rapid fire tool, or there's a bunch of them out there, but it's not free. That's not free. But, just to start compiling some sort of ROI analysis where you're looking at, hey, you've got X number of medical records, or you've got some sort of data on here, or you've got these processes. If this process were to go down, how much would it cost you every day? And start asking those kinds of diagnostic questions. If you had a breach and you have 10,000 medical records, what does that calculate out to in fines and penalties if you were to get a breach? And so by doing that diagnostic process and even using the tools, again, I would use yours. It's a free tool. That to me is, again, a no-brainer. At least it allows you to start the conversation and sit down with the client and say, look, we've assessed your network. We're looking at what's going on. Here's where the dangers are. Here's where you're going to get in trouble. And then putting in place at least some kind of minimum protection so that they don't get hit with a ransomware attack or cyber threat. Or, here's the other thing. It's not even just that anymore. It's internal employees, because there are things such as disgruntled employees who can do a lot of damage. So I think I would use something like your tool, and that would at least open up the conversation.
Awesome. And just for wrapping up, if you had, one or two things to say to the MSPs that are on today, I know there's a number of them, as far as growth and the cybersecurity opportunity in front of MSPs right now, this is the moment. What's your final takeaway advice for them?
Yeah, if you're not selling cybersecurity solutions, you're a dinosaur already. You by the end of this year, you better have something in place and you better start selling it. Not only is the opportunity clear, I mean, you can go online, there's multiple studies. I mean, the opportunity is there, the demand is there, regulatory compliance is getting tighter. So there's all this opportunity for you to help. Two, it's just the right thing to do for your customers. If you're supposed to be the one protecting their network and you're not putting in place certain cybersecurity protocols, I mean, again, I know I'm probably going to hurt some people's feelings. I feel like I think you're doing your clients a disservice. I think you really need to do this and get it figured out. Toot sweet. Like, don't let this roll on for another 6 months. The opportunity is hot. It's right there. You're going to lose customers if you're not doing certain things for them to protect them. Another MSP that's going to do that is going to come along and they're gunning for your customers. I mean, guys, you got to realize every day there's a competitor that wakes up and they want to take your customers from you and salt the earth you stand on. And if you think, oh, my customers would never leave me, I can tell you that's not the case at all. I've got a long list of MSPs who come to me who lost their best customer because somebody came along and sold them a cybersecurity package or outsold them, and they had no idea that they would ever lose it. So guys, I cannot stress to you enough, get after this, learn it, start selling it. Just start, because you can't steer a parked car. You'll never figure it out if you don't do something and get rolling with this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. Again, this is Robin Robbins, a trusted voice in the IT consultant world. Thank you so much for all your insights and joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We are now going to move into the panel next. Stick around if you want to hear from real MSPs and how they have built a cybersecurity practice. I'm going to turn the floor over to Luis Quiñones. He's the Director of Sales Ops for Lumu and our gracious guest. Let's do it, guys.
Hello, everybody. My name is Luis Quiñones, and I'm the Director of Sales for North America for Lumu. I'm very excited to be with you today with this great lineup of experts that we have amassed for you. Let me first introduce our guest. First of all is Sean Slattery. He's founder and CTO of Caribbean Solutions Lab. Second, Elias Stucky. He's the Director of Engineering and Security at Upward Technologies. And Ryahn Toole, Cloud and Security Specialist at Lehigh Technologies. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Lumu MSP Growth Lab today. I really appreciate you guys joining us, and I wanted to see how's everyone doing today.
Great, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to join the panel.
Thank you.
Great, yeah. I love having you guys. It's great to see your faces too during these times. So my goal today is going to be, to really understand and the flow of, what does it take to offer cybersecurity to your customers, right? In the previous session, we had David and Robin talk about the tremendous opportunity right in front of us, as far as revenue and things that we can do as MSPs, and how security can enhance that. So I think we can get started. Everybody ready? I'm going to start my questions then.
Go ahead.
Great.
Go.
All right. So first question, Sean, if you can answer this one, and if anybody wants to chime in, that'll be great. That we want it to be a conversation. First is, how did you get started offering cybersecurity to your clients? What drove that, and what would you do differently? What advice do you have for people that are listening and seeing us?
Great question. I think my path is probably a little different than a lot of people's. I've been in the industry for almost 30 years now. And while security was always part of the business units I worked in, I come from the enterprise space in Europe and moved down to the Caribbean and worked for a general IT VAR reseller. But about 15 years ago, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that security was where I wanted to be and was going to be the future. So I dove headfirst in, became an instructor for another vendor. And for 5 years, I traveled the Caribbean and North America, and then eventually started my own business, Caribbean Solutions Lab, and so that's been running since. So we are a pure play cybersecurity. So that's a little different than I think your typical MSP that slowly adds or has some security offerings as part of the portfolio. As far as what I do differently, I don't know that I do much. I think we're in a good place. We found our niche in the world, as it were, and the IT world and the market as well. So no, I think we're quite happy with where we are and what we've been doing. Just focusing on cybersecurity and letting just letting the generalists letting everyone find their own little niche. I think that works better that way.
Great. Ryahn, do you wanna your opinion on that? That'll be great.
So our road was a little bit different. We actually saw this as kind of an organic growth beyond just the standard MSP offerings. We started to see that when we would get into an environment, we would start working with our clients. There were a lot of things that from an IT side that you want to fix, you want to get it right out of the done right out of the way. But we started to notice more and more as we're going along that these are really starting to transition into a security focused area. So me and my background, I've always focused on security, and we started to kind of almost internally focus more on our own security and then bring our customers with us as we go. And it's been really successful for us. The one thing that I would like to say that we would focus on a lot more would have been the education at the very beginning, starting educating our clients on some of the things that they are facing. Whether or not they want to admit that they're facing that or not is a little bit different, but some of the issues that they are facing, and start that education part of the process a little bit earlier. That's probably what we would have done.
Great. That's a very interesting answer. Elias, last but not least.
Hopefully not least. No, very similar to Ryahn. We're, as an MSP, we started seeing the need to take a stronger stance in the environments beyond the traditional sysadmin controls, kind of like Ryahn was saying. You start to see that these things grow organically, and like, oh, I think this is crossing into the security realm. We started trying to figure out how to bring what we were seeing at the large enterprise level, as it happens with a lot of technologies, that it kind of trickles down to the smaller businesses. Like, how do we fit that to a small business in a creative way that makes sense for the budget and the business objectives and the strategy of a small business? And then obviously the compliance was another big one, working with manufacturing, that we're seeing what the DoD is pushing down. And we just, as I'm sure we all saw it, the writing on the wall of like, this is going to hit the supply chain 2 or 3 suppliers down. And how can we help our customers be better? And then the other driver was a little bit of the transition from the very targeted attacks, which are still very much there, but kind of a transition to the phishing with a grenade approach of malicious actors, of just like, let's just figure out what's out there and throw the broad net, catch everything we can. And I guess in hindsight, one thing that similar to Ryahn actually, is that we realized that there's a level of growth and maturity in a business to where they start to see the value and the need to engage wholeheartedly in a cybersecurity strategy. And we perhaps kind of went too strong with businesses that weren't ready for it and needed a little bit more of a softer, like long game approach of education and training, to where there's an understanding of the value to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the next question is, what are some of the most pressing issues that your customers are dealing with in cybersecurity, and how are you helping? And we can start with you, since you were last. Let's start with Elias first.
I think user education and visibility. I think I kind of disagree with the idea of the user as the weakest link. That might be one way of viewing it. They're also the best line of defense, and if you don't educate them and train them, you're always going to be trying to catch up. And visibility is key, because you really can't protect an environment if you can't see what's happening, if you don't see the threats, if you don't know that there's an attack, how are you going to do something about it? So that's a really big one. Policies are important, especially for the compliance-driven businesses. They kind of see it coming, again, kind of see it coming down the supply chain of needing to come to create policies. And I guess ways that we are helping our customers is we try to create procedures and kind of an easy to use workflow for managing assets and software and bringing visibility to what needs to be protected, so that then we can respond accordingly. And we're also bringing the conversation very much to the leadership level, because with security, you really can't actually make it work if you're not tying it to business risks and business needs. If it's bottom up, you're never going to get there. You know, we all know it's just the IT guy asking me to do MFA, but the boss doesn't have it, so why bother, right? Unless if it comes the other way, then you really get that acceptance from the community, but then you also can tie it to the business risk. And that's when leadership really backs you up. And then you're moving full steam towards a secure environment. Great.
Yeah, I like how you changed that. The user could be your best line of defense. That's definitely something that I haven't heard much before. How about you, Ryahn? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so like you, I like the idea that the user is not the weakest link. An uneducated user can definitely be your weakest link.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But the educated user then becomes that human firewall, that person that can, be a security champion. And the security champion doesn't need to be the person in charge of security. The security champion can be anyone. It should be everyone. But we do see that a lot. Security a lot of the times can be it's inherently confrontational role. It really is. There's bad guys coming in. We're trying to stop the bad guys. There's a conflict. But when you're talking about approaching the leadership and talking with the leadership of an organization, that can't be a confrontational thing. It can't. There's a lot of talk, and it's really popular of you need to do these things, or we're going to have to do this, or we're going to tell you this, or. But as soon as you start having that confrontational approach, you lose your audience. You lose the people in charge, and you need them to drive. It has to be a top-down leadership. It really does. Everything that you've already hit on, I don't need to rehash, but yeah, so I think we're pretty much on the same level there.
Great. Any thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I think like most of us, we have a whole range of let's say cybersecurity maturity levels of customers, from those that are security first at every step of the way to those that are saying, why do we even need passwords? Okay, that's a bit extreme, but you get that range there. But in the Caribbean, with most organizations behaving more like SMEs of North America, no matter if they're five user hedge fund or a 30,000 endpoint government managed WAN provider, they tend to have the same sort of behaviors and problems, and that's at the end of the day, they're generalists. I think the biggest challenge is time and skills, which we all kind of face. But when we're dealing with generalists and these teams, where they're dealing with 10 other problems, they're wearing 10 hats. I think that's the big opportunity for us to come in and say, listen, we're here to help. We're not just here. The classic enterprise play is just, we've got a product, you must buy it, and here we're going to sell you training, and here we're going to sell a ProServe. I saw that 15 years ago. That model just was not sustainable, and it still isn't. Except for maybe the very largest, but even them, the largest companies still have their share of issues with that model. But it's about time and helping them, and not coming in with that confrontational approach, as you mentioned earlier. Just being there to help. It may take a while. It may take it may take a couple quarter budget cycles, but as long as you're in it for a long haul, you understand that cybersecurity is as the saying goes, as a marathon and less a sprint. Then I think you'll be fine.
Awesome. Well, let's go to the next question then. One of the things with security that I hear about is, how does it enhance your relationship with your customers? And Ryahn, if you want to take that one first, like how selling cybersecurity helped you become a trusted advisor or enhance a relationship overall with your customers?
Well, I think the first part is you have to already have that trust. The fact is that in order to sit down across the table from anyone and have some of these difficult conversations, because they can be difficult conversations. You made the joke that, well, why do we need passwords? There are a lot of organizations, why can't we share these accounts? The three people are doing the same job, that they should, they're just going to log in as shipping, and that's the shipping guy. We know why that's not a big deal, but they don't. Or why it is big, sorry. But they don't. So you need to have that trust with them already to start and to move forward with these conversations. But having those conversations and steering them along the right path down some of these things that are incredibly challenging. And when we're talking about issues that can literally be a business killer. I mean, you lose from an availability standpoint, you lose a server, you lose something like that. You can probably recover from that. You've got some sort of recovery plan from a hardware failure or something like that. You lose access to all of your data. You get some type of ransomware attack, you lose everything, and you can't afford to pay these, or even worse, you're hit by something that's already on a known entity list, and now you can't even pay it even if you wanted to. Leave aside whether or not you should, but you can't, because now you'll get hit by somebody else too. If you lose all of that, there are businesses that don't recover from that. There are a lot of businesses that don't recover from that. So if you can have the conversations that, look, it's not about fear. It's not, the fear, uncertainty, doubt. It's not about that. It's about, this is a known issue. We have a way to mitigate the risks on this. Let's move forward together as a team and address these. And once you can kind of navigate those conversations, it's the trust level skyrockets, and it becomes an actual partnership rather than just a vendor client relationship.
Thanks, Sean.
It's a good point. Agreed about the trust. I mean, definitely when you're working in the security space, trust is hard earned. And I think, when you develop that trust, you do everything you can to maintain it. And when you can keep a good relationship with that trust going, that changes everything. We had the opportunity when I started the company to work with customers that we'd had for at least a decade. In many cases, I've seen, the owners retire. I've seen kids come and get promoted, that kind of thing. So I think, the trust and that long-term relationship, I think is key. And I think that, over time, the newer customers see that we're in it for the long haul. We're in it with them, not just trying to sell them a product or a service or something like that. So that does change a lot. And it's not just, and the stability too. I mean, I've been in the channel for far too many years. And, you see sales reps or vendors come and go, or they jump from one vendor to another and say, oh, this week brand X is the best. Last week brand Y was the best, but this week, no, this is better. That doesn't work. Just as, we can get alienated by that, but, we understand when we act on behalf of our customers and speak for our customers, they would lose interest just as easily. So yeah, trust is key. And I think back to my previous point about relationships, and just it establishes deeper, longer, as long as you can maintain it, of course. But I think that's the key thing to this business.
Thank you. That's a very insightful comment on that. Elias?
I think, at the risk of repeating a lot of what we're all on the same page about, is that you do have to start from that already trusting relationship, but moving from just being a trusted advisor for IT to being a trusted advisor for security, and being able to have those high level conversations, being able to drive the conversation from the top. But also, to be honest, sometimes just being kind of like the release valve or the therapist that, hey, our account manager gets a call on the weekend of the CEO who just saw the news article or got a call from a friend who got ransomware. And it's like, hey, I'm scared. How do we fix this? How do I make this not happen? And being able to effectively be there for them, right? And say, like, look, maybe we're exposed right now. Here's what we need to do. Let's sit down. Let's create a strategy for that. And really, having that open conversation about, yes, it's a scary world out there, and it doesn't mean we have to run around like chickens with our head cut off. You know, we can do the right thing as long as we're talking about it. But yeah, I think all three of us are basically saying the same thing, that it really is it's the trust, it's building the trust, because it's all built on that.
The media does a good enough job scaring everybody. We don't need to.
Yeah.
It's true. True.
That's a perfect segue to the next question. Like, you know, can each of you name one misconception about cybersecurity that you had to deal with, you know, either now or previously?
I mean, I'm sure we can mention a bajillion of them. But a couple of them that come to mind is, you know, the assumption that because especially as an MSP, because you do IT, you already do security. So something happens, or you bring up the conversation of security, and it's like, oh, but I thought you were doing that already. Or why is that not being done already? And it's because there's this concept of everything technology is one single thing, and it's very much not. So it's educating the difference, you know, from there, and how you can make the distinction of, yes, IT is technology and security is related to technology, but security is so much bigger. Security is business risk, it's business strategy, and that's why the conversation has to start up top. But also, I mean, I'm sure, you know, we all work with small businesses. I'm sure, and we've all heard the, I don't have anything valuable to steal. You know, who's going to want to hack me? Well, why? And it's, again, it's education. It's sure, you might not have PII, or you might not have credit card information. That's sometimes not the point. You know, sometimes it's downtime, and how much money you're going to lose if you're down for 2-3 days, a week, a month because of ransomware. Maybe you don't recover ever. Yeah. But an interesting one that we've run into in terms of misconceptions is the security's been in the conversation more and more. So it's people coming and saying, I want to be safe, but I don't want to change anything that I'm doing. And it's a misconception, because in some cases you can, in some cases you don't have to change anything, or you have to change very little things. Maybe it's not technology, maybe it's how you do things, right? Maybe it's, you know, stop asking people for PII that you're not going to use just because you think you need it. So again, it just falls back to education, I think.
Yeah. So when you made that comment, I saw Ryahn give a big smile. What were you thinking, and can you share any of those misconceptions?
One is
what's
okay, interesting, you know? Is, I mean, we all pretty much see the same things, but one that you mentioned was, you know, well, why aren't you doing security already? And you do IT, so you obviously do security. You can also find the flip side of that, though. As you can see, well, you know, we need to talk to you about your security, and we need to start talking about the risks that you're accepting right now. You may not know that you're accepting them, but you're accepting them because you're not doing anything about them. We need to start talking about these risks. Like, what do you guys know? You're the server guys. You just keep the blinky lights going. Let's, you know, we need to talk to these, you know. So you see that as well. I think another one, the idea that, you know, we don't have anything valuable. We're too small to attack. We don't, you know, nobody cares about us. Well, you do, or at least you should. So, you know, if I'm a bad guy, I don't really care how much your data is worth to somebody else. I care how much it's worth to you. How much are you willing to pay me to get it back? You know, so, and then the other one that I personally like is, oh, we're going to hire you guys, and you're going to come in and you're going to take care of all the security stuff, and we'll be 100% secure. We're going to be unhackable.
Yeah.
No.
All in one sitting, right? It's all in one engagement. Yeah.
Yep. 15 minutes after we sign the paper, no one will ever be able to get to us. I did have one person ask me if we would be able to we would be able to check our lists for known hackers, and if they hired someone that was a known hacker, we would automatically know about that. I mean, that's kind of an extreme case.
Automatically hire them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe if the CIA were involved, maybe we would know that, but no, sorry. There's a lot of, again, it just comes back to education. It's just kind of setting those expectations, and no, you're not, no one's 100% secure. No, I think we've seen that by now.
And Sean, any comments on that? on the misconception?
Yeah, actually, the last comment about, you'll know about it, right? Reminds you of a question previous job where a customer asked, how many, please, as part of a big RFP, please document the known bugs and how many unknown bugs there are in this product X. And we sort of pause and wait, what are we asking for? But no, I think interesting on the challenge or misconceptions, when we first got started, I was so closely aligned with the previous vendor that I was an instructor for that it was actually kind of hard to break away from that and sort of get people to understand, look, it's not just about brand X. We're looking at the whole, or as much as the security picture as we can. One of the things we see a lot of misconceptions about is around this reliance upon antivirus. So I've got antivirus, I'm safe, or I've got a firewall and antivirus and I'm safe, or I've got a firewall, AV, web filtering, email filtering. Well, guess what? Every major company that's been breached has all of those. It's getting away from that very product-centric view of the world, and they're saying, well, we have this. Or sometimes we'll see it with other vendors come and say, well, we sell brand X endpoint now. We're a security company now. You're safe. And I think a lot of that time is getting the customers to sort of listen through the marketing FUD about what it takes to be secure. Because obviously I understand from a vendor perspective, Symantec wants to sell their endpoint and Palo Alto wants to sell their firewalls, and they're very focused on those areas. But that's security is so much bigger and larger than that. And I think that's one of the challenges we see is this, and we see that also not just with the vendors fighting, but also sometimes the other service providers in our area where that the FUD or the shaming, the bad mouthing about brand X or whatever it is, and that's just part of the game now. But back to our previous point about you develop that relationship, you develop that trust, and you can generally work through it.
Yeah, that's perfect, because that leads into the next question, which is how do you communicate the need for cybersecurity and prove the value of your customers' investments in cybersecurity, right? That's one of the challenges that we see. How do you show some ROI, or what are you seeing, Sean, there?
Yeah, that's an interesting one for us. The Caribbean region hasn't been very regulated by frameworks, governance frameworks for a while. I mean, a lot of organizations we work with have, sister companies or parallel operations in U.S., Canada, Europe, so they fall under those regulatory frameworks in a sort of a back channel way. But that started changing. Actually, during the pandemic, most of the offshore world started introducing cybersecurity and governance regulations on top of the financial ones. So, in that sense, that compliance is kind of driving some interest and discussions around security, which is actually a good thing. Compliance is not equal security, but it's a start to get people thinking a bit more proactively in the business managers and leaders to think from a higher level. Whereas previously it would just be the tactical, often IT reporting to a CFO or accountant, something like that. Just says we spent this much as a cost center. It's this black hole of money, and we're paying money for nothing to happen type thing, right? That kind of ROI and insurance in a way. But the compliance, the regulatory frameworks helps drive that discussion. Of course, there's the ambulance chasing of incident response, or seeing the news of so and so has been breached again, or whatever the case is, and that has some value. But I think generally most of the businesses we're working with are starting to see now and recognize the risk and impact. I mean, if nothing else, you can ask, what would it cost you if you had no access to any of your infrastructure? What does that really mean to you? Someone mentioned earlier about there's a term I came across recently and referenced earlier about an extinction level event, right? Not every organization can suffer a massive outage, whatever the cause is. And the term I heard was an extinction level event. No one wants an extinction level event from cybersecurity, or where you have the opportunity to prevent it or catch it early enough in that sense. But it's an interesting one. I think that idea is still being developed in that sense. So, if there are any good ways, alternate ways to share that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, maybe Ryahn can offer, another thought there. So.
No, I mean, it is that challenge of, you're talking about ROI for something that you're planning to prevent from happening, or you're trying to prevent from happening. So what's the return on us stopping something from happening? What's the return on something like that? And what's interesting is we've actually found an ally in the insurance agents and in the insurance companies, because when you're talking about, small businesses, SMBs that are going to look at, their cyber liability insurance and things like that, there are a lot of companies now and a lot of insurance providers now that are requiring more and more for those. 6 years ago, you said if you could find someone to provide you with cyber liability insurance, it was 3 questions, 4 questions. Now you're looking at 13, 14 pages of these are the things that you have to do, or we're not going to provide you insurance. Or worse, we'll provide you insurance, but because you didn't answer these correctly, or you weren't doing what you said you were doing, we're not going to pay out if there is an event. So that we've actually found kind of an ally in them in having those higher level conversations. But it is a challenge. It's not a question of if you're going to be breached, it's when. I mean, the fact is that if you're in existence long enough, bad things are going to happen, so having those conversations at the higher level they're a challenge.
That's a very good point. And in the interest of time, I'm going to start with Elias on the last question that I have.
Yep.
And then and then keep the conversation going. But one of the things that we believe at Lumu is that visibility is at the core of any good cybersecurity strategy. Knowing what's happening. And the first question: do you agree with that? Is that something that you guys are talking and advising your customers about? And what role does continuous compromise visibility play in your client security strategies?
Well, first thing, I'd probably say that if I disagreed, I probably wouldn't be here, because I wouldn't be thinking about the need for visibility. So I definitely agree with that. I think it's important that, I guess, to hearken a little bit to what was being said in the question before, is that we're trying to talk about something that when it's working, you never see it or you never hear about it. Because if security works, nobody hears about it. So visibility is really important, and it's really important to understand kind of what's happening and what's happening when a compromise happens. Like it's not just hair on fire, somebody got hacked in the business, find that computer among hundreds. It's more narrowing that site down, making it easy to use, and therefore moving away from the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and having a strategic conversation around it. So compromised visibility plays a really big role in that, because then you're always going to be guessing, right? But the more you can narrow that down, the more you can cut it down, the more precise your actions are going to be, the more efficient you can be in remediation or in preventing spreading or just preventing the damage. So you can't assess a compromise if you can't see it.
Yeah.
And if you can't assess it, then how are you ever going to be able to do something about it effectively? You're just going to be, again, you can go broke on security. And if you do it wrong, then you will. But if you have something that brings visibility, you can really be efficient.
Thanks for the comment. Ryahn, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, he kind of hit it right on the head. If you don't see what's there, then how do you know what's going on? So, and any operation, it doesn't matter if it's security or planning a new product rollout or something. It all comes back. It all starts with intelligence and knowing what's happening and what's going on. The fact is that you can have your endpoint protection, you can have your network level, your network firewall, your network protection, and things like that. But that's stuff you know about. You know what's happening with that. You don't forget about it. You don't ignore it. It's covered. It's everything you don't know about that you should be worried about. That's what keeps me up at night. What's happening in these environments that I don't know about? Because I operate on the assumption that everyone's compromised, because the chances are there's somebody out there smarter than me that figured out how to do this without me knowing it. So the more visibility we have, the more intelligence we have, the better we can respond to anything.
Excellent. Sean?
Yeah, it's almost akin to that question earlier that a customer asked once, how many unknown bugs there are. But I always like relating the story of survivor bias. It's a classic story from World War II where These planes are coming back from the Pacific Theater, all being shot up. And so the initial reaction was put better armor where all the holes were found on the airplanes, where they were shot by guns. Well, no, those planes made it back. That's the place that's most survivable. You need to put the armor where there aren't any holes, because those planes clearly never made it back. And I think in the, relating back to the comments about a lot of, that misconception around endpoint, around networked web, email, you're used to seeing those and you think everything's fine, but what did those miss? I think that, comes back clearly to the visibility state. You assume something got through, and that's the best way to approach it. And, be sure you have a good chance of detecting, what might have been missed. And one carry-on that we've seen is, one comment I've always used, which is security and IT make the same decisions for different reasons. So let's say you don't allow BitTorrent client on a BitTorrent on a network because it's violating, intellectual property rights. From a security perspective, it's downloading malware. But it comes down to, often you're making the same, you use a security tool to find a network issue. And that visibility can actually be really helpful to solving what actually wasn't a security problem, but can actually help as well. So that's been a good sort of additional value that we can provide through visibility tools to say, hey, looks like you might have misconfiguration somewhere. And even though it's not a security one, we can, help them along and say, hey, get your network guys or team or vendor to look at it. You might be able to solve some problems here.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. And I want to thank the panel for your insights, your comments. Thank you for making it interactive and giving us some good things to think about. I mean, some are good and some are, you kind of think of security. You're always trying to adapt, like Ryahn said, they could be here. But again, I wanted to thank you. And let's now go and see the demo of how Lumu can help with, you start offering security or to your clients, or also maybe upscale your offerings. Thank you again. I really appreciate, at Lumu, we appreciate you guys, working with us and being great MSPs to work with, and have a great day. Thanks again.
All right, how insightful was that, guys? Those MSPs are truly walking the walk. Incredible, and I got no doubt all the MSPs on here today can do it as well. Let me know what you thought about the panel in the chat, and I'll be monitoring the feedback. Up next, we have an intro of Lumu, specifically why we are building Lumu for MSPs and how this tool can help you strengthen your cybersecurity offering. For that, I want to introduce Ricardo Villadiego, founder and CEO of Lumu, who will lead us into this portion of the next session. Stick around. RV, take it away.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here, and thank you all of you for your time today. Before we dive into the demo, I want to share a quick story with you. I spent the last 25 years in cybersecurity in different roles, since writing code to build cybersecurity products, to selling cybersecurity solutions to hundreds of companies and enterprises around the world, to building my own company and then selling that company in 2017. And after I sold it, I had a little bit of time in my hands. And this thought kept coming back to me. What do we need so that all organizations, regardless of their size, can operate cybersecurity proficiently? And in the attempt to answer this question, I also realized some of the hard realities as it relates to small businesses and cybersecurity. And those are, number one, cybersecurity for the most part has been built for large enterprises. With large teams, they have the dollars to afford them. And number two, that cybersecurity must be operated to be efficient. In the pursuit of solving this conundrum, we came out with this concept. You probably had a mental idea how the scene is gonna end. The lioness is gonna get to the zebra, and it's gonna be the end of the story for the zebra. And the same is true in cybersecurity. Nothing good happens when our networks are in contact with adversarial infrastructure. If that's happening, the end result may be catastrophic. And the operationalization of this concept gave us the confidence to believe in a world where any enterprise, any organization, regardless of their size, can operate cybersecurity proficiently. And we know it is possible because we see it daily with the more than 2,000 customers that we have around the world. We name this continuous compromise assessment. It's rare that we find what we're not looking for. So we embrace companies to intentionally look for compromises, for contacts with adversarial infrastructure. If you find that, you identify with determination what you need to solve in order to minimize those contacts with adversarial infrastructure. And better yet, doing that continuously, hence continuous compromise assessment. The value that you get when you embrace this concept is that now you're measuring the effectiveness of your cyber defenses. If Lumu identifies contacts with adversarial infrastructure, there's something that's not working correctly with your cyber defenses. But knowing that helps you to fine-tune what you need to do with your cyber defenses to mitigate that contact and the evil effect that may come after that. But the beauty of this is that to implement this concept, you have all the data that you need within the networks of your organizations. The DNS queries, the network flows, the access logs to firewalls and our proxies, and the spam box. We collect all this data. We facilitate the way we collect all this data, get that into our cloud, and each and every one of our customers gets their unique state of compromise from the Lumu portal. However, it is impossible to think that the world can operate cybersecurity proficiently unless that we enable the teams that take care of this for the millions of small and medium businesses around the globe. So today, I am proud to announce that we're launching Lumu for MSPs. This is a brand new offering that allows MSPs to take advantage of the radical innovation that we brought to the market and help all your customers to build cyber resilience. So without further ado, I have JP with me here. He's our customer success manager, and he will walk us through the power of Lumu for MSPs and the immense value it can bring for your businesses. JP, take it away.
Thanks, Ricardo, for the introduction. All right, so typically what we've seen organizations and cybersecurity solutions offer is that for multi-tenant capabilities, they have a way for MSPs usually to switch from one account to another or from one company to another, so they have the visibility over what's happening with each of those customers. And from the beginning, we've done that as well. From the beginning, we started offering our customer manager portal. That's how we call it, and it's the way MSPs have had to access all the accounts that they are managing. Basically, accessing this portal gives them or gives you access to this drop-down menu in which you can switch from account to account, so you can access all the different companies you are managing. So in this way, for example, I'm seeing all the accounts I have created here, and in here I'm looking at what this organization is looking when they access the Lumu portal. So I'm going to have access to all the different modules, and I can operate this portal for them from here. But based on the feedback that we got from MSPs, which was basically that MSPs needed a better and more powerful way to operate cybersecurity for their customers. They needed a way in which they could have one single view or one single pane of glass that they could use to manage these kind of solutions for their customers. And the idea or the reason behind that was to reduce portal fatigue, so they could have one single portal from which they can manage all those different companies. And that's why today we're introducing Lumu for MSPs. So this new portal is what is going to give MSPs the ability to have that single pane of glass, that full visibility, and the best way they're going to have to operate cybersecurity for all their customers from one single portal here. All right, so this is the portal. I'm just going to go ahead and access and show you all the features we have available here. When I access the portal, I'm going to be presented with this initial dashboard in which I can see very easy and simple information about the companies I'm managing. So I can see information about the companies that I have created, which in this case are 2, how many of those companies are paid tiers, and how many of those companies are free tiers. So I have 2 paid tiers and 2 free tiers. This is going to help me, 2 free companies, and this is going to help me to navigate those companies and move them across the sales cycle as well. I want to make sure I know where each of those companies is at all times. I also have the distribution of the open incidents by each of these companies. So for this example, I have 3 companies, and I can see, for example, the city company is the one that has most of those alerts. So I can focus my resources and I can focus my analysts, for example, to work on that specific company that I know has some issues, and the compromise level of the organization is a little bit high. So I need to do something about that. So I can use this to manage those companies more effectively. I also have the alert distribution by adversarial type. As you know, every incident and every indicator of compromise we detect here is going to be associated with specific categories like malware, phishing, command and control, and so on. So I can use this information as well to know exactly what's happening across all the different companies I'm managing. Now, what I want to do is show you how we can, from this portal, operate all those incidents and all those alerts for each of the companies I'm managing. So I'm going to go here to my incidents module. And from here, well, I have this information as well, but I now have the details of, or the list of the companies I have and the details of each of those. So for example, I have my 4 companies created here. I can see how many endpoints are affected for each of those companies, how many contacts and how many alerts. So this is important because I can use this information to measure the compromise level for these organizations in a really easy and simple way. And also, when I start doing my mitigation and my remediation, I would all check these numbers and expect them, for example, to go down after I've remediated some of the issues on some of these machines, for example. So I'm going to access now one of these companies. Let's say we're going to start my investigation with my city company, which has 29 endpoints affected and over 600 malicious contacts. So I'm going to access this company, and I'm going to see all the different alerts they have created, how many incidents are open, how many contacts in total they have across how many labels, and how many endpoints. Again, a very, very useful information for my investigation. But now what I have is information about each of those specific incidents. So I can see the different indicators of compromise, number of endpoints affected for each of those indicators of compromise, and total number of contacts. So I can do different things here. One of the best ways we think to operate this is filter this by specific labels or types of threads, for example. So in this case, let's say I'm going to filter by a specific type of thread. In this case, let's go with command and control, for example, and this is going to pull up only those incidents associated with command and control. So in this case, I'm now going to select this one. This is related to a command and control. This one is, I can see the case history, for example, about the specific incident. I have information about the labels affected, endpoints affected, and basically the distribution of this specific incident across the organization. So I can see all the different labels and the distribution across time as well. For example, I can see that contacts with this specific IOC started on April 5th. And then we had some sporadic contacts on a couple of other dates as well. And I can see the endpoints that have been affected. So for example, in this case, I have this endpoint that was affected or had 8 contacts with this specific site. And I can see the user that was logged in. I can see the Windows process, and I can see the client IP. So this is going to give me the tools I need to go to the specific device and start doing my investigation, basically. I also have information about context, so I can check the threat triggers we have, the list of domains and URLs associated with this specific indicator of compromise. In this case, I have these 2. This is telling me that this is related to a malware family called Sorino Kiwi. I also have the related files, so all the hashes of the files associated with this indicator of compromise. I can download this information to take a manual action. So I can create a rule in the firewall, for example, or in the EDR to block or look for the specific files. I also have related resources. So these are going to be articles from experts that we curated ourselves and contain additional literature on the specific threat. You can also check those out so you have more tools when you're doing your investigation as well. You have the attack matrix as well. So this is going to be the minor attack matrix for the enterprise, which contains all the different tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques associated with this specific IOC. Once you've done the investigation, from this portal, you can right away take action. So you don't have to go anywhere else, and you can start operating this incident. You can either close the incident, which means, okay, you already did your investigation and remediation, and or you can also mute the incident, which means that for some reason, maybe you have a valid reason to access this indicator, this site, so you don't want to get alerted anymore for it. So you can mute the incident, so you reduce the number of alerts you're going to generate. So I can also take that action from here for this specific organization. So that's the way we have to operate this in a very easy and simple way for each of the organizations we're managing from the MSP portal. Now, when we talk more a little bit about deployment and knowing how each of the organizations I'm managing is and the status of each of them, I can go to my settings module, and then I'm going to find my companies. Here I have the list of companies I have created. I can check each of those and information, very useful information about each of them, so I can keep track of their status. And from here, I can do different things. So let's take a look at city company again. I'm going to click on the company details, and here I'm going to see even more information. First of all, something very useful is traffic in the last 7 days. So we want to make sure that we have that visibility over the assets of each of the companies we're operating. So in this case, for city company, I can see that we are receiving constant traffic. So we're doing the monitoring, we're doing our job, and basically we're measuring the compromise level for them in real time. If I saw this to go down at any specific moment in time, I would know something happened, and probably I would have to work with them so I can get that traffic back up and start doing the monitoring again. And if I want to check into the details of this specific organization, I can also do that. I can check the number of gateways they have created and details about them. I can see each of these gateways, for example. These ones are the ones that are actually sending traffic. They have 15 gateways created, so I would have to work with them on the rest of the gateways and why they're not sending traffic at the moment. I can also look at the virtual appliance. So if we're deploying virtual appliances, this would be the place I would go to create new virtual appliances and manage the ones I currently have. For example, I can access specific virtual appliances and check the information for them. I can create new collectors, so I can start receiving metadata from new sources like firewalls and proxies and all that stuff. So I can do that from my appliance tab here. And I can also look see, look at information about agents, for example, how many agents have we deployed across how many groups. All that stuff is available here. Same as custom collector API. I can look at those custom collectors and the information we're receiving for each of them. Same with Spambox. I have some details here. For example, I can see the Spambox email I'm using for this organization, and labels as well. So labels, as you know, is a very powerful tool we have to group all the traffic we receive in the Lumu portal. So from here, I can add new labels and operate the ones I currently have. So I also have access to that piece from here. And the last thing we have in the companies module is first, the possibility to create a new company. So with this orange button, I can just add a new company. The only thing I need is a name. I can even add a logo if I want to have a very a visual aid when I'm looking at these companies. And I have to add a client contact name and email. So they have, we also have that on record. So it's very easy to create a new company, and then I can start doing my onboarding process with them. And the last thing we have in this new portal is our accounts module. So from here is where I'm going to manage the people that access this portal. So these are all the different users we have created that can access the MSP portal for me. So I have access to all these different accounts we just looked at. And from here, I can add new users. It's very easy to do that. I can invite as many people as I want from my organization. I just have to enter a name, email, time zone. This is very important. So each user sees the alerts in the right time zone. I have to assign a role, which can be admin, supervisor, or analyst. Admin is basically full-blown permissions. They have access to everything, and they can manage everything for every company we have created here. Supervisor is going to be the person that basically deploys organizations, handles virtual appliances, gateways, and all that stuff. And the analyst is going to be the person that accesses this portal kind of like on a regular basis and operates those incidents and those alerts for each organization. And for each of these roles, I also have the possibility to give them access to specific companies. So maybe I have a fairly big group and I don't want to give them all access to all organizations. I can do that. In this case, this user is only going to have access to, let's say, city company and this other organization. That ensures that every person has the right visibility from this portal. All right, so that's the Lumu for MSPs, the new offering we have. The last thing I wanted to show you is how to access the MSP portal. So this one has a difference with the older portal is that you cannot just open an account. You have to request an account. So when you access here, you can click where it says request an account, and we'll work with you on that. We'll work with you on setting that up so you have access to pretty much everything I showed. All right, that's all I have for you today. So thank you very much. And back to you, David.
Fantastic stuff there, JP. Thank you so much. Everybody here, request that Lumu MSP access. You're not going to regret it. Hop on the Lumu MSP train right now. All right, guys, guess what? My job is done here. Thank you all for joining us today. I loved it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Till next time, my MSP friends, this is David, over and out.